Let's try this again. We just went through that whole damn thing uh, to find out that I didn't have the record button. Never mind, man. Never mind. So let's get going right at the prime spot. I'm gonna check out uh, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power trailer that played during the big game. First teaser trailer. It's like Numenor. Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got the hunters as they've been described. I don't think those antlers are on. I think they're on their backs. Is this a hobbit right here? Rosy cheeks, some kind of cherub, some kind of Faustian thing. Ah, Galadriel climbing the Helphalax. Okay. Shipwreck. Okay, he caught an arrow and is firing it back. That's an elf of some kind. Meteor streaking overhead. Man, there's so many characters. It's moving so fast. They're building and then bringing you back, building and bringing you back. Oh, they checked out our ears. I'm not happy about that. And then the small hand grabbing a larger hand. The Rings of Power, September 2nd on Prime. Wow. That's that moved quickly. That moved very quickly. Let's go back over a few of the details. The classical idealization of what I think is Numenor. It looks very Mediterranean, very Atlantean. Even in its history, it does, spoilers. If you haven't read the stories in the Silmarillion and you don't know the history, you might want to skip over this part. But Numenor does get sank into the ocean. It gets drowned in the sea because of the vanity of men, and they went against the gods. And so there are some Mediterranean, Atlantean, Roman types of looks to the Numenorians. They've got this massive statue here in the center of this cove, this bay area, and it reminds you of the Argonath that we see in Lord of the Rings. And the Gondorians are direct descendants of Numenor. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Numenor there. We've got the hunters and all. I'll skip over that, but it looks as if those were on their packs. I doubt those were on their bodies. This character here is intriguing. Fresh face, rosy cheeks. Looks to be a she. Looks to be a female character. I don't know if that's a bow in her hair, if it's horns. Small horns. Is she more creature than she is a humanoid character? But is obviously tiny because the hand. I assume that it's this hand that's grabbing the larger hand at the end of the trailer. This massive wall and waterfall, and Galadriel is making her way. Sticks the dagger she's climbing with nothing but a dagger. But she's a powerful elf witch. Let everyone else tell it. Now, she's younger at this point, but still 1,000 years old, maybe. She's seen the two trees. She's one of the elder elves in more modern times, in times of Lord of the Rings. She's thousands upon thousands of years old by then. At this point, she's considered a young elf. She's leading the Noldor. Um, she did go with the elves were the first creatures to awake, the first of God's creatures to awake. They're likened to a lower level of angels, and they were granted access to heaven, if you will, the undying lands. And so they went on a huge journey to go there. Now, not all of them made it, but those that did go on the trip with the intent of getting there were given a special name, a special status. Um, she decides, along with, I believe, her brothers, that they get wrapped up in some drama that happens. She's going to go back and inhabit the world of Middle Earth. It'll be interesting to see that journey, that story. She's outfitted here in full battle regalia. She's got her her gauntlets on. She's climbing with her chainmail, so she obviously feels like she needs some kind of protection during the journey. but they focus a lot on her. I think she is de facto main character. Got some seafaring happening. You know, the Numenorians are known for that. As I said, it was a they were very Atlantean in their history and story. We've got an elf catching. He's in some kind of battle. He's catching this arrow and firing it back. That's pretty interesting. I like that. And I like that they're introducing some new characters. You know, it didn't always work, or it's always a tough thing to do when you've got people who know the material so well, people who are very, very clued into the material, and they want to see their characters that they love and remember. But the truth is, to flesh out a world, to flesh out a story off paper, on paper you can only follow those. It's possible to only follow those characters. But in visual media, you have to fill out the world. You have to give people a little bit more to make the world seem real and lived in. And so these characters that we know and love are going to interact with new characters. They have to. Now, it's my hope that they don't get into any sort of cheesy love stories and force anything like that, because that was a studio decision on Tario in The Hobbit. As a character, she was actually quite strong, quite capable, and she showed a lower in the caste system of elves. She showed a lower class of elf that was still very capable, still just as immortal as the rest if they weren't killed in battle. And they could someday grow to be as wise as the older ones. Um, that was good. I thought that part was excellent to show a common elf, if you will, because the Sylvan elves are elves that did not make the trip back to the Undying Lands. They didn't get to see heaven. They didn't get to see the light of the two trees. That's why she talks about memory when she looks at moonlight and those kind of things. But I think that introducing a character like that is good because you do need to fill the world out. You need to round things out. But when you force situations like a love story that was really, really forced, God, it was forced. That makes it bad. So Amazon, please don't do that. Now they're introducing a lot of faces that you can start to kind of guess at some of the main characters. Celeborn, you've got Galadriel, Finrod, Glorfindel. Like I'm hoping that we get to see all of them. Um, and in that, some are speculating that this is how they're going to shift the myth just a little bit because they have to find a way to get Anatar, aka Sauron, previous to his darker persona, this sort of light alias that gets everyone to buy into him. That's how they get him into the story. That's how they get him into Numenor and Middle Earth and all of this, because uh, he was the second Dark Lord. Most people don't realize. So a lot of people, not most, but a lot of people don't realize that Melkor was the first Dark Lord, and he's one of the Einar, upper angels. And then you've got the Maiar, middle angels. And then the created ones from that are the elves, men, and dwarves. And the dwarves weren't created by God. The dwarves were created by one of the Einar who decided he wanted to have a creation of his own. But God was like, all right, cool, I'll let you keep them, but they can't wake up before the elves. It's a whole thing. The Silmarillion is dope, but it is a tough read. Definitely audiobook that one. But that's what most of this is wrapped in. And I'm wondering if they're going to allow for some of those stories, because they show the two trees. They show the trees that lit the world when the world was flat. The gods, mainly Iluvatar, Eru, when the Numenorians tried to sail to heaven and they were told not to, he was like, okay, cool. I'm going to make it so you can't get there. And they rounded the world. But it was Ungoliant and Melkor who killed the two trees and sucked them dry. And Ungoliant grew large because of the sap of the trees. And so this gold and silver light was diminished and destroyed. They show that. So are they going to show Ungoliant, the massive spider that is the predecessor to Shelob? Ah, nerdgasm right here. But they gotta show it. Like if they're gonna hint at it, they gotta show it. But that's a lot to get in. So the hope is that this is a multi series show. Like they're gonna do season after season to cover all of this. I hope that that's the route it goes. Also, I would like to be able to binge this. So Amazon, just put them all out. Don't make me wait. I would like to see all of this at once. There's lots of faces where we've gotten hints at who they might be, but we're not perfectly sure. They've told us who some of them are, and they've got this look. They've got this connected look to Peter Jackson's trilogy. You know, some of the shots, some of the drone and crane shots, helicopter shots, vast landscape shots. They had to have the connective tissue back to the Lord of the Rings, which is the more beloved of the trilogies. The Hobbit we won't really talk about. That was kind of forced. Yeah, there we go. We've got Elrond, and so Elrond, I believe, is Galadriel's grandson. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But Elrond is an important part, played by Hugo Weaving. He was an important part of bringing Sauron down. But again, he's thousands of years old. He's seen other things. And Elros, his brother, was actually a man. So Elrond Half Elven is his full name. And he was given the choice to be an elf or a man. And one chose mortality, one chose immortality. So the first king of the Numenorians was actually Elrond's brother. Crazy, right? It looks like we're going to see our first female dwarf, which will be interesting. Ah, they sweep Galadriel's hair back to see her ears. The elves and the Numenorians were not exactly friends. Men were jealous of immortality, and the elves were jealous that men got to die. They called it the gift of men. And so this misunderstanding led to some beef between elves and men. And so Galadriel looks like she's going to be captured because they sweep her hair back to see her ears. Yeah, the man in the fiery flame. Don't know. Is that Anatar, Sauron? Is that the Maiar? You know, the Maiar came to Earth much the same way, and Gandalf is a Maiar. So that was those middle angels I was talking about. And in the end, we show that little one grabbing, you know, the halfling of sorts grabbing his hand. That could be, it could be Gandalf. Yeah, this elf here looks like he's captured. He's got a chain on his ankle, but he's going into attack position to maybe get out of there and escape. And that might be the same one here in the golden elf armor, fighting some of the orcs. And then there's that hand grab. And Gandalf was always in these sort of tattered woolen clothes. Maybe that's him. Maybe it's Anatar. You know, I don't know. This is interesting though. It's all going to be interesting. Stick with us as we cover it. September 2nd. It'll be here before we know it, but I'll be glad to have summer here first. But yeah, it should be good. Should be good. Really excited about it. Great trailer. Got the juices flowing as it needed to. Um, Stick with us. Very heavy synopsis. VHS will be covering it. Um, my man Make It Plain Wayne, he covers a few other things, so stay with the channel. Check us out. He does a lot of DC and some Batman stuff. He's going to be doing some of that here coming soon. I do a lot of Marvel and Star Wars and some other things we'll get into. Definitely the fantasy, the swashbuckling fantasy is my gig, so we'll be covering that. Stick with us. A very heavy synopsis. I am ridiculous. Thank you. Peace.